So Amy told me to record right from the beginning so that she can catch any funny things we say, shit like that.
Like when you were talking about your big deck last time.
Yeah, like last
How you're
time when
really
I said I was
excited
gonna
to go
go
out
outside and sit on
your
the big deck. Yeah,
Yeah.
and
Does your
we
wife
did. We
know
both.
that you have a big deck?
She does, and in
Did your
fact,
wife?
she went and sat on the big deck with me at the same time.
Oh. Is it a hard deck?
It is. It's always hard.
Hardwood?
Which is nice. Yes, it's always hardwood. It's wonderful. I mean, we had a lovely evening.
Okay, so you never have to worry
and
about.
And then went right to sleep.
Oh,
so
wonderful!
Which was
What'd
nice.
you do?
Yeah.
What'd you do on the big hard deck?
We sat there and we had a cocktail first, and then neither of us smoked, so we didn't have a cigarette afterwards.
On the deck?
But on the deck, right on the deck.
Wait, cocktail on the deck. Okay.
Yeah. It was fun. It's a fun evening. I mean, nice. We'll probably do it again during the summer.
Yeah,
but
I mean,
it's raining
like
now.
You
so,
and your wife really. Oh, okay. Well, it's not like you and your wife really use decks a lot. So this is kind of like
no, we don't. And we have a really good. Yeah, and we have a good relationship. So yeah, it's just something fun to do. Yeah. Welcome to the Happily Ever After Cold Case Podcast. We're your hosts, Alyssa and Marissa, distant cousins who take on distant cases. Come with us as we explore the crimes of legendary tales of the past. All right, we are fourth cousins, but in the world of Jews, that could mean double second cousins too. Anyway, we take all cold cases, even the really old ones, seriously, no stone unturned. Now, that being said, we're not comedians, just naturally funny Jews. It's literally in our DNA. Hello, Alyssa, how are you today?
Hello, how are you?
I need to pick me up. I'm a little what's the word in Yiddish for like probably needing to go to sleep? I don't know what it is.
Not verklempt. That's a little overwhelmed.
Right. Yeah, I don't know. I do have a Yiddish book here, but I only know a few words from when my dad used to talk to his adopted mother, and they were never the good words that I remembered.
So I don't know. No, yeah, I don't know what the verb would be, but if you want a nap, you want a shloof.
A shloof. Okay. I need a shloof.
Yeah, you want a shloof. Like you're tired. You want. Yeah, you're tired. Right. Yeah, you need a shloof.
I need a little shloof.
So
okay. I got it.
You need a little shloof because you're tired, but instead, maybe you should schlep over and get a coffee.
Yeah, a coffee, and we can have a coffee
Wake
together.
Up a little bit.
Yeah.
I'm drinking a coffee right now.
Oh, I am drinking.
Although
coffee
doesn't really wake me up though.
No, it doesn't me either. That's my ADD kicking in.
No. Same here.
Puts me to sleep.
It's actually soothing for me. It helps. Yeah, it puts me to sleep. Or if I'm kind of distracted, it doesn't wake me up. It helps me calm down enough to be
focused,
to concentrate.
Yeah. Absolutely. Plus, it tastes good. So there's that.
It also just tastes. It's so good. It's delicious. It's amazing. It's wonderful.
I love coffee. Fresh coffee. I buy coffee beans everywhere I travel.
Ugh.
I know.
And you don't give any to me? What is this? I thought you liked me. Do you not love me?
I do, but you moved away from Portland and went to Seattle, so I don't know what to tell you. If you lived closer.
There's something called the mail.
Yeah.
We have oh my God.
Do we have a mail system anymore? I guess we do. Yeah. I just never use it.
I mean, we do now. Yeah. For a while, it was a little touch and go.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's getting better.
I can't digitally send you coffee.
There was a couple years.
Yeah.
No, that would be so great. You could just beam it over to me.
Yeah. I can't wait till that. Yeah, that's never going to happen. Not in my lifetime.
We have transporter technology.
Yeah. So what do you have for me?
Maybe in my niece and nephew's lifetime.
Oh, I love that idea.
Well, okay. So
what do you have? What'd you dig up?
Speaking of, so speaking of lifetimes and future or past, This case is very, very old, several hundred years old,
Ooh,
maybe even one of the oldest, if not the oldest case that we've looked at so far.
you have been busy this week. You've been in the
I
law
have
library.
been busy. Well, no, this one wasn't even in the library. I had to go to the law library, then go to an annex, and then keep looking through
Wow.
the annex and look in some of the archive documents because it was that old and it was
Wow.
handwritten. I mean, it was digitized,
Yeah,
scanned
yeah.
in, digitized, all that kind of great stuff. But the original records obviously are handwritten because we've only they they weren't
Right.
exactly typing stuff up on a computer or typewriter six or
Right.
700 years ago. Yeah.
Crazy. All right. Well, I'm glad you could read it.
And this
What?
one, yeah, now this one, because it is so old, the records I found are a little spotty. There's
Okay.
not as much information there. So I've sort of had to make some assumptions looking at the circumstantial information or the circumstantial evidence that I saw, looking at some of the information and just making some assumptions or some guesses.
Well, I was gonna say educated guesses, but we've already established, you know, that you got your
You're
degree that
just
you
being
got your
nice.
degree at,
Mm.
at a drive-through school.
Mhm,
We
and
already
within an AOL chat
with an
room.
AOL
Yeah.
chat room, yes. So, fair enough.
Yes. When I had a lot of those CDs for free AOL hours.
Oh, I remember those. Yeah, those are terrible. Yeah, I do.
That's gonna be a generational divide. Anyone who
Yeah.
gets who gets that and understands that reference probably
Is
is
older.
dyeing their hair by now.
Yeah, exactly.
Is coloring their hair. Yeah.
Yeah, or not.
Mhm.
Just letting it go gray.
Oh, embracing
I'm
the gray,
embracing
embracing the
I'm embracing
silver.
time. Yes, I'm embracing it. So, uh, it's old, but what kinda
Mhm.
well, take me through it so I can kind of assess what the crime committed here was.
This one has some pretty hefty crimes, whereas last
Ooh,
week, little less on the criminal front, maybe
right.
a little more on the tort
Yep.
area. This one definitely crime heavy.
Hmm.
Pretty horrendous, actually.
Oh,
Really, really awful. Yeah. Yeah. Really, really awful. It involves some murder, potential cannibalism.
ooh,
Um, yeah, yeah. Really
that's scary.
just horrific, terrible stuff. And
Now I'm
I'm
excited.
really glad that you're excited. We're excited. Yeah, I am
Yeah.
glad. I could just end the sentence by saying glad, but I will continue that sentence and say that I'm glad that this happened so long ago and that we don't have these issues as much anymore. Although, if you're watching Netflix, you've
Probably.
seen, well, may or may not have seen some of those true crime documentaries that they have on there too. So
Oh, those are pretty grisly.
obviously,
Yeah.
there's stuff still happens. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I'm gonna sleep well tonight, so I'm not worried about nightmares. So, let's do it.
Well, yeah, true crime is always helps you get to sleep.
Absolutely. That's what I listen to just before I go to bed.
Mhm. Yeah. Well, then this is perfect for you. So this one starts out, again, hundreds of years old. I don't know exactly how old, but I do believe that it's at least 6 or 700 years. So quite a bit of time. And in this case, there was it involves another king, another ruler. And I think I've been finding that a lot of the cases that we've seen involve rulers, and I think that's just survivor bias. We're not going to hear about stories or crimes that happen to an everyday person because they're just not going to be recorded.
True.
Whereas if there's a crime that involves a ruler or some other prolific individual in society, we're just going to hear about it or it's going to be recorded. So I think a lot of these cases that we see with this pattern is just your basic survivor bias.
Right. I mean, because unless it's something well, I mean, this is, a little over 100 years ago. Well, 130 years ago, something like that, 140 years ago now. But Jack the Ripper, that wasn't, anybody, that was royal or anything, but it's, it's much more modern, so we hear about it. And it was really one of the first of its kind that we would hear about too, that was not royalty.
And didn't you have a theory about Jack?
I do, I am actually a closet ripperologist. I have about 100 books. Some of them are signed and collectibles. So yeah, and the theory is we're related to him.
Hmm. Maybe that probably explains a lot, I
It
think,
doesn't it?
about
Doesn't
you
it?
and I.
Yeah.
It does.
Well,
Yeah. Yeah.
and I'll tell you why, because we do have relatives that lived in Whitechapel at the time. And here's the best part. The haplogroup, the genetic haplogroup is the same as ours. So,
There you
yeah,
go.
there's that.
See, no wonder when I look at a disposal and see if it's rated for bones, I think, well, what kind of bones?
What kind
Are
of
we
bones?
talking finger
Exactly.
bones, femurs? What do
Right.
we Oh. Oh, they meant like chicken bones.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
different kind of bones.
Never put a
I didn't
femur
realize
in a
that.
garbage disposal. You
Whoops.
will definitely ruin the
No.
disposal.
No, you will. You will ruin the disposal. Yeah, it's a
Yeah.
bad idea.
Don't do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, and they're not that expensive, but they're expensive enough.
I don't like having to replace them. It's kind of a pain to get under there
It
and
is, yeah,
replace
it's
it and
kinda
everything.
messy.
And it's
Mhm.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah, it's kinda
yeah.
messy, and you have to turn everything off and then everything back on and reconnect. It's just a
That's
pain.
just
There's
not
so
yeah,
many
yeah,
better ways to get rid of femurs. Yeah,
yeah. Agreed. Agreed.
yeah. Well, speaking of body disposal, so in this case, we start off with a king,
Okay.
and he is married as rulers were back then since they had to propagate the line of succession. And his wife is the queen, and there was this blurb, and I'm not quite clear exactly on what language was used, but there is this interesting blurb, so I wanted to share this because I've only seen it this one time, and it just struck me. So there's this little blurb that I saw referencing the queen, and it talked about how she was childless, and then one day she was sewing and she pricked her finger and some blood fell, and upon this
Ow.
blood she wished that she could have a child who is as white as snow, with lips as red as that blood, and hair as dark as the spindle that she was spinning on. And it was just the
Huh.
weirdest little blurb, but I figured I wanted to share that because it was just so,
That is weird.
I don't know, just it is kind of weird. Yeah.
And,
Very weird.
the stranger thing is that, even several hundred years ago, even then they realized that a prick would lead to a pregnancy. So it's kinda, you know,
Yeah. They were ahead of their time.
yeah, way ahead of their time.
Mhm. Well,
So blood
after that little
everywhere?
blurb,
Are
after
you
that little bit, blood no, just a tiny little bit. Tiny,
huh,
tiny little bit.
okay,
It didn't seem like she was hemorrhaging, it just seemed like maybe just like a little sewing accident.
okay.
And then eventually she did have a baby. A as you said, she pricked her finger and pricks cause childbirth.
Pregnancy,
So
that's
she
right.
had a baby. Yep. She had a baby, and this baby, for all that I can see, actually did have very, very fair skin. Um, I guess red features, cheeks, lips, whatnot. There were some comments about how this child was extremely fair, and I say fair not based on skin color, but um, using the word fair to mean beautiful, attractive, lovely. So
Well, I'm guessing with the red
yeah.
cheeks, probably also a very, cold country, so Northern Europe somewhere.
Well, there
Definitely
was
not
reference of snow. So
okay, okay, because it doesn't
mhm.
seem like it would be maybe something from the Middle East or even Africa or Asia.
Yeah,
This
that would
seems
be
very
weird
Northern European.
to have very fair skin. Yeah,
Yeah,
and to have
yeah,
fair skin where the sun is going to be that powerful would just be a
and
recipe
the
for
red
skin
cheeks
cancer.
from yeah, absolutely.
hmm
Yeah,
Yeah,
gotta be a
just
cold climate.
peel, tan. Or I'm sorry. Yeah, burn, peel, burn again. Skin
Yeah,
cancer all the way. Just awful,
yeah,
awful,
we
horrible.
understand that. Yeah,
So yeah, yeah, yeah. This is why we have wonderfully now we have SPF.
yeah, But they didn't
Well,
then.
and
So,
and surgery if we do have that
yes.
needs to be removed,
Yes.
thankfully. Yeah. Well, among other things that can be removed.
That's true.
So in this so in this case, they have this child and she was apparently very fair with skin as white as snow, lips and cheeks as red as that blood that was referenced earlier, and hair as dark as the spindle. So very, very fair child. Now, unfortunately, as was the case in many, many childbirths back then with very limited medical care, the queen died in childbirth.
Oh, yeah.
Mhm. Well, childbirth
Not
was one of the
uncommon.
most right, it was one of the most dangerous things a woman back then could do because with
Leading
such
cause of
lack of
death.
medical care.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And unfortunately
Wow.
she died. And then a year later the king remarried.
Okay.
Mhm. Which is very, very common. Again, I I don't think anything's nefarious here. Like in some of the other cases we saw
No.
that seemed a little questionable. The timing was a little bit questionable. Here, sh the queen
Just
died in
just as a
childbirth. It doesn't.
childbirth. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I don't see any cause for concern or any
No,
question
no.
about the death of the queen and the subsequent remarriage of the king.
No, I think that that is something very common. Well, men can't
Mhm.
really they don't like to be alone anyway, so it's very often, even today, men will, remarry very quickly
Yeah.
because they need to be taken care of,
Yeah, yeah, very,
you
very
know?
hard right, right, very hard to function,
Yeah, yeah,
as a single adult when you're
yeah.
male.
And especially
You
he's gotta
have
run this country, and he's got a child, yeah. Yep,
mm,
yep,
very difficult, right.
yeah,
I mean, how are you gonna get out of bed and find your shoes?
yeah,
Just very difficult.
yeah.
Yeah.
Don't blame him.
So he remarried. Mhm. Now, the problems start here with this remarriage. It's very unfortunate. The woman that he remarried was, by all accounts, very, very beautiful. Unfortunately, she was also very, very vain. That's the word I've seen pop up over and over and over. Vain, envious, but all to do with her beauty. And I can kind of see her point. Women back then really didn't have a lot of autonomy or independence, and the only currency they had was their physical appearance. And the
True.
more beautiful you were, the more likely you were going to be able to be with someone who was wealthier and who could make sure that you were fed
Yeah,
and that you had a roof and that you weren't going to freeze to death.
absolutely. Those were the important
So I
things
do
those years.
see, yeah, yeah. So I do see why someone who is very beautiful would also be vain, as that's her only currency and envious. But it
Mhm.
did become really problematic later on.
So she was kind of an influencer of her time then, if you think about it. She
Mhm.
probably would
If
have
you
been
think
on
about it, yeah.
TikTok if she was alive today, dancing and,
Oh, shoot. All over
you know
TikTok. Oh, yeah,
Yeah,
TikTok
yeah,
queen.
yeah. So
Yeah.
she's definitely
Insta
the
queen,
influencer of her
TikTok
day.
queen.
Insta queen. Yeah, yeah.
Mhm. She'd be blue check marked super
For
quick.
sure, for sure.
Yes, yes. Now, she also had this mirror, and it's been described as a magic mirror. I think that's a very
That's a
limiting
little weird.
explanation for this mirror. It is weird, but I think it's also very limiting. I don't know what else this mirror could do, but what I do see in the records is that she was able to speak to this mirror and converse and receive information and confirmation from this mirror, kind of like an AI.
Well, okay, could it have been maybe a little bit of psychosis? Maybe? It sounds like there's definitely a DSM, kind of diagnosis that needed to be happening there. I mean, granted, it's several hundred years prior, but, talking to a mirror and getting
I
answers,
think,
that's
yeah. Well, and especially when you hear about what she did next, I think you're on the right track with that DSM question. Yeah,
mm,
just a lot of really, really awful things that this woman did because of what she believed this mirror was telling her.
oh, wow.
Yeah,
Still happens
just
today.
it does still happen today, but at least we have modern medication
True.
and
And psychological
and
help for people.
hospitalization and
And yes,
psychological
exactly,
help, yes,
exactly.
therapy, all of those wonderful things. I mean, who knows if she had been alive today, maybe
Right.
someone would have realized that she's talking to her mirror and she believes her mirror is talking back and be
Yeah.
based on what her mirror is saying, she's going to plan to murder somebody. So,
Oh,
maybe
yeah.
she would have been stopped.
So, hang tight. So, the mirror is telling her now to murder somebody?
It gets there. So like I said earlier, she's very attractive. She's also very vain
Okay.
and very envious of other women who are also
Sure.
attractive. Because again, there's that physical uh, that physical feature is the only thing that women have. It's
Right.
our
Right.
only currency. So she needs to capitalize on that, right? So she continuously asks this mirror throughout several years after she's married, who is the fairest person? So it would be something like, mirror, mirror on the wall, who is the fairest of them all? And then she would believe this mirror would answer her and tell her that she is the fairest of them all.
That's wacky.
So something like, very, very crazy. But obviously, if we're talking something 700 or 800 years ago, it's not going to be a slang or what our
Fair enough, yeah.
colloquial
Yeah.
colloquial English would be today would be something like, looking glass upon the wall, who is the fairest of us all? As she is an educated
Oh,
woman
wow.
for her time. And
Okay.
then the mirror, or is what she believes the mirror, would answer, you are the fairest of them all. And she could go about her
Wow.
day believing that she is the most beautiful woman, she is the queen, she is happy to go along with her life.
So there's a
But
hang on, there's a comorbidity there of narcissism, for sure.
mhm. Oh, for sure. Yeah. I think there's some issue with narcissism, narcissistic personality disorder.
Yes.
I really grand
I
okay.
mean, I don't wanna diagnose, we
One
don't wanna
caveat, I'm
diagnose.
not a psychologist, I'm not
Yeah,
a
me
psychiatrist.
either,
I'm
but
just
that
looking at a cold case that was handwritten hundreds of years old.
just on the
But
surface of things,
but
that's a lot
yes,
of validation
some
needed.
narcissism, some level of psychosis if she
Yeah,
is speaking to an inanimate object and believes the inanimate object is speaking back,
exactly. That's
and
just
then
common
basing
sense. Yeah.
decisions upon the answers from this inanimate object.
Her delusions. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
So you remember when I told you that the king and his first wife had a child, and
Yes.
that child had skin as white as snow, cheeks as red as blood, and hair as dark as that ebony spindle. So this
Right.
child was a daughter, and they named her Snow White. Not a very
What a funny
inventive name,
name.
but
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, I mean, the rulers
Yeah,
would,
but again, it's
she's gonna go to
translated.
school and like no one's gonna make fun of her.
Yeah,
She's a
but
princess.
it
No one's gonna make
she's
fun
a
of her name.
princess, yeah. Well, and we don't know, in that area of Europe, was snow a common name? And translated into English,
Mhm.
sometimes names are very different from what they originally were in the country they came from,
And this has been through
so that's
several translations.
yeah, so
Mhm.
that's I'm
This was
gonna
this
go
was
with that,
something.
yeah.
Okay. Now this was something that I did find from the Grimm's Brothers Investigative Services that I talked about earlier a
Okay,
couple episodes ago. So
yeah,
they were able to translate it from the original language, which I could not read. I could not tell you what it was. So
right.
I don't even know if that's the original, but they were able to translate it. So I don't know how many times it's been translated and how many translations may have changed some of the names.
Sure. Yeah,
I don't know. But for what we have right now in English, this translation that we have, her name was Snow White.
okay.
Yeah. So we've got that in the background. We have this queen who has potentially some mental health issues and is speaking to her mirror, who she believes answers her back. And the years go by. Snow White begins to get older, as one does when you're
Yeah,
human and you're growing. She gets older. And one day, the queen goes to her mirror, and again, this woman is still dealing with mental health issues that have never been addressed. It's
sure.
years long mental health. And she goes to her mirror and again looks at her mirror and says, "Looking glass upon the wall, who is the fairest of us all?" Now this time the response from the mirror was different than it had been in all of those prior years.
Hmm?
This time the mirror told her that she wasn't the fairest. And
Uh-oh.
in that sort of nice old
Right.
proper language, "Queen, you are full fair, 'tis true, but Snow White fair is than you." So to translate that,
Uh-oh.
uh-huh, the
Her her
mirror
her
said that Snow
mental her
White, her
mental
stepdaughter.
yeah, her mental
Mhm,
stability is definitely
yeah.
declining.
Oh, very much so. She's got a stepdaughter who is growing up, who's becoming more beautiful, who is also a woman and will someday have to get married because she's a woman and her only currency is what
Getting
she looks
married,
like,
yeah.
is her physical
Yeah,
appearance. Yeah.
yeah. Poor kid.
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
Man, just misogyny just
Well,
creates
and
so many
yeah.
problems.
So and it's like self-hatred too, which is even worse.
Mhm.
And you combine that with, the need for this validation, the mental decline, her voices are starting
Mhm.
to, take her down
The
a
increase
very bad
in
path. Yeah.
mhm,
It's getting dark for
right.
her.
Increase in psychosis,
Yeah.
her separation from reality, her inability to interpret reality,
Right,
really, really
right.
dangerous.
That is
Yeah.
really unfortunate.
And her access to power, because she's still a
Oh,
queen,
yeah.
so she still has some access to quite a bit of power.
Sure, that makes sense. Wow.
Mhm.
Wow, wow, wow,
And so
wow.
once she heard this, she thought, well, she thought her world was over. She's no longer the fairest, so what is she gonna do, right?
Right,
So she hired, forced, I don't really know if hired is the right word since she's a queen and she controls and she has access to all these resources,
right.
but she brought in one of the huntsmen that work for the palace. And
Okay.
she told this huntsman to take Snow White into the woods and to kill her and to bring the heart back as proof.
Ooh, that is
There we go.
brutal.
Brutal.
Now
There we go. Murder for hire.
wow.
Murder. So the huntsman, murder for hire.
Right.
Questionable, but whether
Conspiracy.
he was able to consent, whether it was voluntary
Right,
or whether he was
right.
forced into it, but duress isn't really a defense here. So murder for hire, she is soliciting him to commit murder, so murder
Right,
still
right.
premeditated, and then
Aggravated,
bringing back
sit
the
yeah.
heart.
Ooh, that's
Yeah,
that's
really
bad. Now
awful, really
now
horrible.
question this is getting really dark.
Mhm,
Question for you. Now you mentioned these
mhm,
huntsmen. I'm assuming
mhm.
that meant of the time that these palace figures would go and hunt for food, for the palace, because it's not like there was, a local Kroger or something. They and
Right.
and the king is not gonna go hunting, so they have these huntsmen that go and
Mhm.
catch food. Okay, alright.
Yes, yeah, yeah. Think of them as a 800-year-old Instacart, but
Exactly.
more
There you
dangerous.
go. Yeah, much more.
Mhm,
Yeah,
yeah.
fair
Well,
enough.
and I don't think they were able to get alcohol. They were more of the hunter as opposed to the gatherer and
Yeah.
grower and distiller. I
Well, and
think
I
I think that
know
was a separate department.
yeah, and I know even on the worst one, Grubhub, you can't get a heart. You can't order a heart. So, a little bit different.
Oh, well, that's unfortunate, isn't it?
I've tried. I've tried.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. What
Really?
what
Nothing?
this is this no,
Not
nothing.
even
I've
Uber
tried.
Eats? No?
No,
Mm.
mm-mm. No.
Huh.
No, they're stricter.
Really
Yeah,
unfortunate, really lacking in
it
that
is.
area.
Lacking
Yeah.
in service.
Well,
Yeah.
no, was it just human hearts? Is it that's what you're not
Any heart.
able to
Any
get?
heart. Any heart.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay, okay.
yeah.
So it's not specific, it's okay,
No, no.
okay, okay, just I just wanted to check, I wasn't sure if it was
Sure, sure.
species
No, 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 fair
specific or
enough.
just the
No, no,
organ
it's
specific.
the organ.
Okay, well,
Yeah,
alright.
no organs, no organs. They yeah.
Okay. Uh-huh. Well, I mean, I guess that makes sense. There isn't really a huge
Sure.
market for that out
No, no,
here.
and you can't get a soul either, so, don't even try and order them.
Oh, that's a bummer.
Yeah.
I was gonna go
I don't know.
shopping for one, I
Maybe in
yeah.
Washington State, it's a little bit different than here in Oregon, so maybe you can. I don't know.
Oregon
Check.
does have some very strict laws, some kind of weird
Yeah,
extra laws going on that
they do.
Washington doesn't have, Idaho, although let's be honest, Idaho doesn't have much anyway. But even
No, they don't.
California can be
Yeah,
a little looser on some restrictions than
yeah.
Oregon.
It's
Yeah.
weird. It is weird, for sure.
Mhm. Mhm.
So,
Yeah. Alright.
does he do this? Does he I mean, he's gotta follow orders, I'm assuming.
Mhm. Thankfully for Snow White, he doesn't. He does take her out to the woods, but
Okay.
she's grown into this lovely young woman and is able to convince the huntsman not to kill her. So he lets her go. She runs off into the woods and promises she will never, ever, ever go back to the palace. And he thinks, all right, great. She's gone. He can kill. He saw a boar, a wild boar, which they've hunted before,
Pig hearts are
and
very similar to
mm,
human hearts, yes.
they are, yeah, yeah. There's actually a lot of medical testing now that's done on
Right.
pigs to simulate reactions in humans.
Yeah. Clever.
Mhm. He's very smart. Probably
But
had a good idea of human and pig anatomy,
anatomy,
although definitely
yeah.
not kosher.
No, no, definitely not.
No, not
But,
kosher.
why didn't he I mean, the whole thing doesn't sound kosher, but why didn't
No.
he go to the king?
Yeah, I don't
And
think humans would be kosher either.
no, I don't think so. I don't think so. Mm-mm.
No,
Not very
no.
tasty either. But why didn't he go to the
Mm.
king? This is what I don't understand. The queen is not the ruler. She is kind of like a queen consort, if you will. Why doesn't he go to the king and say, "Hey, look, okay, I've just answered my own question because is the king gonna believe him? Probably not. That his wife is doing this. Okay,
Right.
alright. Yeah, I
Right.
answered
Yeah.
myself.
I mean, he's
Yeah,
what? A lowly huntsman?
sure.
He's the guy who brings your grocery bags from Fred Meyer to your car. Is he what is he
Exactly,
who are you gonna believe? Yeah.
exactly.
So thankfully, he does not kill her. He lets Snow White run off into the woods. He then sees the boar. He kills the boar and takes the heart back to the queen. Now, here's where it got even a little bit extreme for me. I don't like slasher flicks. I've never liked
No,
them. I think I'm just turned off by this.
agreed.
But she she engaged in what she thought was cannibalism. She cooked and ate the heart. Mhm.
No.
Yeah.
Wow,
Yeah.
she's
Honestly,
really
when I
going
read that, I
downhill.
almost just stopped. I almost just stopped and said, "Nope, I don't we can just look at something else.
Yeah,
This is too much for
yeah.
me." Yeah,
Wow.
really awful.
That's she's really sliding into a bad place mentally.
Yeah. Yeah,
Wow.
I mean, I I honestly I do believe that someone with mental health issues should have some extra accommodations within a criminal system. Um,
Sure.
there's a lot of times there are mental health issues that are tied in with their behavior, especially when it comes
Absolutely.
to like drug use,
Mhm.
petty theft, vandalism, that type of thing, property damage. If someone is, for example, an addict, there may be an underlying mental health issue that they are self treating because they don't have access to medical care.
But
Here,
she
though,
certainly would,
this
yeah.
is this is beyond that though. This isn't
Yeah.
theft or
No.
minor possession
This
or
is
a
psychosis.
little bit
This
like
is hardcore.
yeah, this is murder.
Yeah.
This is murder for hire.
Yeah.
Cannibalism. This is a bit much.
That is insane. And the king must not be spending much time with her either because he doesn't see this? I'm thinking there's not
Apparently
much
not.
time
It
spent
just
together.
no. Although there were a lot of marriages back then were just marriages either for convenience, for political power, expediency,
True.
marriages where people actually wanted to
Well,
spend
and
time
he
together. Mm,
yeah, and he really I mean, he was getting married because he needed someone to take care of this child, so it really was maybe even a marriage of convenience.
although when when you say take care, I don't think you mean this type
Yeah.
of take care.
No, 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 wrong kinda take care. Yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
Oof, yeah. No, I meant, like, raise a child, not not eat its heart. No.
Not
I
not
would
not
never
have it
do that
murdered and then eat
to
its
my
heart. Yeah.
stepchildren. Yeah, I would never do that to my stepchildren.
Oh, well, that's
Uh,
good. That's good. Okay, so
yeah,
so if anything were to happen, we don't need to look to you to see if you have
no,
anything in
no,
your refrigerator.
no, definitely not, no. I
Okay.
actually like
Okay,
my
good, good.
stepchildren, so
I'm sure. Oh, well, that's wonderful. Okay, good. So you're not gonna push them into the dirty hearth and make them clean the cinders, and you're also not going to hire someone to murder them and then cook their heart and eat it. That's wonderful.
well,
You're
I
such a
would
good
no,
stepmom.
I would make them clean the cinders, but they're older now and don't live with us, so, yeah, there's that.
Mm,
But, when they come to visit,
okay.
I don't make them do that. When they usually come to visit in the summertime anyway, so there's no fireplace going and yeah.
Oh, well, you're not gonna have a fire in a fireplace
No,
in the
no,
summertime. It's too hot for that.
no,
Yeah, that
definitely
makes
not.
sense.
Yeah.
That makes sense. Okay.
So, does she ever get caught?
Not initially, no. It just
Ooh.
continues. It's this
Wait,
although
it
the nice thing
contin
is mhm,
but she wait, hang on.
mhm,
She
it
thinks
just gets
she has
worse. It just gets
she
so worse.
she thinks she's killed the stepdaughter.
Mhm,
What does she
and
do
eaten her
now?
heart, engaged
Yes.
engaged in cattle. She believes that she hired someone to murder her stepdaughter, that she just committed a crime, and then she ate a body part of said victim. That's what she
Oh,
believes, and she is happy about that.
wow.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah.
And nobody
Yeah.
notices that the princess is gone.
Apparently not. I don't know if she's a girl, so
Yeah, probably not paying a
her
lot of
value
attention.
in this situation is probably
Yeah.
just what whoever they can marry her off to and whatever political alliance they can make.
Hooking up with another, principality or kingdom. Yeah, yeah.
Mhm. Yeah, not as much about what value she can bring to her kingdom and how she can rule because women
No,
were
she's not
never
going to. Yeah.
afforded that opportunity. No.
Yeah.
No.
Not back then, no.
No. No. So luckily, she ran into the woods, like I said, and she stayed in the woods. And after running for quite some time, she came upon this home, this little house. And inside the house, there were seven of everything, seven beds, seven table settings. There was even food at each table setting, almost like it was put there so that whoever could eat it could just come home and eat. Kind of like when you meal prep, you prep for the week and you put everything in Tupperware. So when you're ready to eat it, you just take it out, heat it up, and go. That's a kind of image I get in this scenario. So she
That
finds this
sounds like it.
home. Yeah, so she finds this home. Everything's been meal prepped. There are seven beds, and she takes a little bit from each plate and each cup just so that she's not taking everything from one of them and not taking all of the food from that one prepared
'Cause
plate
I
or
mean,
cup.
I would imagine she's very hungry by this time.
Yes, yeah, but still very, very kind and considerate and not wanting to finish in one individual's food. And so takes a little bit from each
Sure.
person or from each setting to not
And
take
seems like a
from
large
one.
family too,
And
a
then
family of 7, so
Yeah, it's quite large. So there should have been enough for her to take a little nibble from each one and then
Sure.
not put one setting out and completely finished.
Right. Right.
And then she finds a bed and is able to fall asleep in one of the beds.
Ooh, that's risky.
Yeah, yeah, although at that time in history, I don't know. I feel like there weren't as
Well,
many people around.
yeah,
So the
true,
risks
true.
of
But I mean, you're still going into a stranger's home. I mean, that's okay by today's standards. That's breaking and entering. But we don't
Mhm,
know who this family is yet. I mean, at least I don't. I know. I don't know if it's in the records, but um, I'm not going to go into a stranger's home, especially I see it's a family of five. I'm going to be overpowered. There is that, we kind of talked a little bit about this last week. There's that balance of power that's off. She is taking a
mhm,
huge risk.
mhm. Oh, no, one correction, it was a family of 7.
Yeah, yeah. No, that's what I said. No, you did say a family of seven. You did. And
Mhm,
and
yeah,
and
oh,
and, and
sorry.
that's and that's
Yeah,
that's what really kind of worries me about the situation, that here's this young woman going into this home alone, with this random family of seven. I mean, granted, it's probably a safe
mhm,
situation. It's a family, but still,
right,
she didn't
and
know.
there were no firearms at that point in time, so at least she doesn't have to worry about going to the wrong house and being shot in the porch.
True, true. There's none of that.
Yeah,
No
yeah,
ringing the doorbell and getting shot. Yeah,
right,
fair.
right, right. Yeah,
Better
which
times in a lot of ways.
as we've
Yeah,
seen today, yeah, as
yeah,
we've seen today, um, is a danger. Well,
yeah.
if you're young and you're a person of color, it is a danger,
It is a
unfortunately.
danger. Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Ugh, yeah. Just absolutely terrible.
Whole That's a whole other podcast we could go into. But yeah,
Oh,
we're doing
yeah.
old cases, so
We're doing
there's
old
nothing cold
cases.
about
The
that.
new cases today are just, yeah. I think the new cases today are infuriating, whereas this one at least gives us several hundred years of distance.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
People at the time,
So
I'm
back to
sure,
this
were
case.
much more horrified.
Right, whereas now we have that distance between us, whereas today we really don't, so we have this
Yeah.
visceral
Visceral
reaction.
reaction. Yep.
Mhm. So in this case, she is able to find a bed, she falls asleep, and then several hours later, the owners of the home come home.
Oops. This is what I was worried about.
Yep, they come home, and it is a family of 7, I believe 7 brothers. And
Whoa.
they're described in this literature as dwarves. Now, I don't know if they were just small of stature, if they were born with dwarfism. I don't know. I don't know.
So,
And from the
do you
information that I have, I don't think I'm ever going to know because
right.
7 or 800
We could
years
say
ago, I don't think they were able to diagnose that or understand the difference
no,
and
and
understand
and
what
and
dwarfism
for
is.
no, and to be a little, politically correct, if it was today, they would be, little people,
Mhm.
or, there would be, um there would be other names for them. I mean, you definitely wouldn't just, reach out and say, "Hey, these are dwarves." Um, they're just, short of stature. They're little people.
Yeah, so I don't know exactly what their full description was, but what I can see in this old literature is that they were just described as dwarves. So at least what we do
Sure.
know is that they were they were men who were smaller in stature than the average man of that
The
time.
average height at the time, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Which wasn't
And
very tall to
now
begin with.
it seems like they're brothers. No, no, it wasn't. I'm taller than the average man of that time.
Yeah, you are, and you're short.
I'm very
Okay, well,
short.
you're
Yeah, I'm only about
average.
what, 5'7"? Well,
That's the same. You and I are the same height. It's not short. So,
When next
these
to my
are
husband
4
is short. Although I think he's
next to your husband,
abnormally
everybody's
tall.
short. Yeah.
Mm, yeah.
So 7 brothers living together. I'm assuming they're
Mhm.
fairly young, or it seems very strange. None of them are married?
It does seem strange, but for that time, family members generally lived together in multiple generations of family members. And I don't see any information about these 7 brothers being married. So if none of them were married, it would just make sense for them to stay living together instead of them to each live individually in an unmarried way.
True. It just seems strange that out of 7 brothers, there were no marriages.
I don't know if maybe there was just it was a small village, or maybe
It's
they were
possible.
just 7 brothers who were just very genetically ungifted, to put it nicely.
Fair enough, fair enough.
Mhm. Well, I don't
Hard
know
to
if
find
fair would be
anybody.
the right word.
Oh, yeah, yeah, we
Maybe
don't
the
wanna,
the
yeah.
opposite the opposite of fair, where she's described as fair,
They're
maybe
not
they
fair.
weren't.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah,
Maybe they needed a good yenta, and unfortunately, there
yeah.
was no yenta.
Well, here's a thought. So, 7 dudes that are not married, and here comes this beautiful young woman. Uh, I smell trouble. Right out of the gate, I smell
Mhm.
trouble. I don't
Oh,
wanna seem like an alarmist.
I was fully expecting the same thing. I was bracing myself for something just awful and terrible, but I was pleasantly surprised. I was pleasantly, happily surprised. They reaffirmed my faith in humanity, or at least in this small bit. These 7 men woke her up. They fed her, they gave her own food, and they struck an
Oh,
agreement. If she can cook and clean and keep their house tidy so that they don't need to meal prep at the beginning of the day, they'll have a hot meal at the end. She can live there, do her thing, and just be a member of the family. And
wow.
now, and
That's amazing.
I do not think member of the family in a way where she is an unwilling member of the family. From
Right,
what
right.
I read, it really, really sounds like it
Like a
was
sister.
a
The
sister.
sister they
Yeah,
never had. The sister
yeah,
they never had. Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
Oh, beautiful.
yeah.
That is, and see now
Thankfully, beautiful,
that's a
wonderful.
beautiful part of this, crime that you found, that, there was actually some
Mhm.
goodness there. These brothers sound like they are just an amazing family.
Yeah, yeah. And I get, and now I'm wondering, why weren't they married if they were so nice?
Yeah.
Why weren't they
Who
married?
knows?
It really
Who knows?
I really wonder, maybe they just really did look unfortunate and they just needed a good yenta to find them
Yeah.
someone who had terrible eyesight.
Yeah. Or, was
Yeah.
who could clean the house, and, because it doesn't sound like they were very tidy, and just keep things
No.
together while they went to work.
Well, and cook, because I think maybe they were getting tired of having cold dinner by the time they got home, since they didn't have a
Yeah,
microwave to
true.
reheat it.
Yeah. True.
Yeah.
True.
Yeah. It would get a little tiring to have cold dinner every
Every
night,
night.
especially if you've just been out working, mining. It'd be kinda nice to have
Oh, they
something a
were
little hot,
minors. Were
especially when
they
it's
all
cold.
minors?
Yeah, they were
Yeah.
all miners. Mhm. It's a lot of
Oh,
hard work,
okay.
a lot of
Yeah.
calories spent, very, very physical labor.
Sure.
So I
Sure.
do see them wanting someone who could help
A
out and
sister, a
just,
yenta, a sister,
having a
sure.
hot meal at the end of the day.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, honestly, for most men, you don't really need a wife, you need a mother.
Yeah. There you go. There you go.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
so
So here she was.
she comes in,
Yeah.
yeah, perfect. It's a perfect situation.
Mhm.
Oh, that's
It's
lovely. That's
perfect.
lovely. So is that
Yeah.
it's
So
so I'm
nice.
assuming she lives for the rest of her life with these men, and everything is fine, and it just, like, you know, everything's great.
Well, if we could only just talk about fairy tales, then they could all live happily ever after. But since this is not a fairy tale, you know there's something else coming.
Oh, great. Okay.
Yeah, I know. Life is just it's hard. History
It's just
sucks
yeah.
sometimes.
Just when you
It
think things are
does.
going
Yeah.
well. Yeah.
So she
No.
ugh, I know. The other shoe drops. Ugh.
Yeah.
Well, in her case, not the other shoe. We talked about shoes before. Shoes
Yeah,
are
on the
not
first
an
one.
issue in this
Yeah.
case. Mhm. Oh, but yeah, the other shoe drops. She told them all about who she was and who was chasing her because she was very aware that it was her stepmother. And when they told her that she could stay with them and be their family member, they warned her that eventually her stepmother would find out and would come searching for her. And initially, I thought, well, that's got to be some paranoia because I mean, the stepmother,
Yeah.
she's in the midst of a lot of mental health issues. How is she ever going to know?
Right.
But
She thinks she's eating the heart.
sometimes she does. But if you're paranoid, sometimes you're paranoid for a reason because the
Mm.
stepmother did find out.
No. How?
She did. You know that mirror I told you about?
Yeah.
She talked to the mirror again.
Okay.
I
Don't
don't
tell
know
me.
if it was her own mental health issues, her own paranoia. Maybe she realized deep down that she was not eating a human heart, that she was eating a boar's heart, since boar was fairly
Ugh.
common at that point.
Sure.
Mm, But she went to the mirror one day and asked, looking glass upon the wall, who is the fairest of us all? And instead of the mirror telling her that she was the fairest in the land, the mirror, in its very proper old English, said, Queen, thou art of beauty rare, but Snow White living in the glen with the
Oh.
7 little men is 1,000 times more fair. So, way to dig
Oh,
in the knife.
no.
Yeah,
Wow.
really
So there's
capitalizing on her paranoia, her narcissism, and her psychosis.
no kidding. And well, and what's weird is, I mean, I know we're making an assumption that it's psychosis, and I think it is a fair assumption, but she has to have had some inkling that these men lived out there, and that's quite possibly where she went within her paranoia.
She did.
Wow.
Hmm.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow, wow, wow.
And she could not let it rest. So she put on a costume and she went out to the seven men's to their house. She went there looking for Snow
Mm.
White. And when she got there, she knocked on the door and asked for Snow White and said that she was selling her wares, selling ribbons of the day. Now, Snow White had been warned,
Sure.
don't let anybody in. Your stepmother's probably going to be looking for you. Just be careful, some stranger danger.
Lay low. Lay
But
low.
but yeah, lay low. But this young girl, maybe she didn't listen, maybe she was just too sheltered, but she saw this peddler selling ribbons and she thought everything would be fine and she wanted to buy a ribbon. So the queen started lacing her up, laced her too tight, ended up cutting off her airway and left her for
Oh,
dead, trying to suffocate her.
no.
Yeah.
No way.
Just keeps on trying
Don't
to murder this poor young girl.
did she survive?
Thankfully she did. Thankfully medical knowledge was not very prolific back then. And the dwarves, when they came home, were able to unlace the ribbon, and Snow White was able to breathe again, and she was okay.
I'm assuming they got there fairly quickly after this woman had left. Uh,
I mean, I
that's
would hope
amazing.
so because I don't know how long you're going to survive on just limited oxygen.
Not long at all.
Yeah, yeah. But they
Wow.
were able to get there, loosen everything up, and she was able to get in enough air and wake up, and she was okay. She was eventually okay.
Wow. But
but it
now,
continued. It ugh.
that's a problem though, because now she's, alive. I mean, granted, this woman has the thoughts that she's already killed her again, but we have a
Mhm,
situation where, she isn't dead, and is she gonna find out
mhm.
again? I think it's time for her to move on. Sad to say, but, for the safety of these brothers and, for her own safety as well, she really shouldn't be staying there.
Mhm. Sh she should be moving on, maybe move to a new country,
Yeah,
but no, she stays there. I guess maybe they figured, the queen came after her once, thinks she's dead, now she'll be fine.
okay, yeah.
But but no, no, it wasn't. The queen found out that Snow White survived, and she went back.
Oh,
And the brothers, they warned Snow White again. This they warned her to be careful. The queen already came after you. She's tried to kill you a first time. Don't let anybody in. Just be careful. Some stranger danger. Let's just
right.
be careful. That whole 1980s stranger danger.
Well, also, if in all fairness, it has an air of, even today, young people that are raised with privilege, they don't have any street smarts. These brothers
And
have a
she
lot
did
of
not
street
have
smarts.
any street smarts.
Yeah,
Right, where Snow White has none. Absolutely none.
yeah,
She's way too
yeah,
trusting.
yeah.
So the queen comes back, and this time
Oh,
just dressed as a different peddler. This time, just someone else.
and
Had
she
apparently
opened don't
had an
tell me,
amazing wardrobe because she could just completely change.
but she don't tell me she answers the bloody door.
She does. She answers the
Oh,
door. She's a little bit more cautious this time. Says that no one can get in. But this peddler, well, the queen dressed as a peddler, leaves this beautiful comb for Snow White, and Snow White thinks, "Oh, who- she's selling combs. She can't hurt me." The
mm.
comb was poisoned, and as soon as it
Oh,
goes in Snow
come
White's hair,
on.
yep, it must have been some type of dermal poison for it to be absorbed into her
Sure.
body through her
But
skin.
I can totally see that, but I mean, this kid sounds gullible.
Very. Although she grew up in
Wow.
a palace, she had every
Yeah,
privilege. She was raised with a silver spoon.
white privilege
Although you
at
would
its
think
worst.
you yes. Definitely. Yes, but you would think after her stepmother's already tried to kill her now 3 times, first by the huntsman, murder for hire, then with the ribbons, and now this most recent time with a comb, you'd think that at least with the first 2, she'd be a little bit more aware.
Oh, absolutely. There's I mean, there's denial there at the very least,
Or maybe well, or I hate to say this, but maybe she was very, very beautiful, but that's all she
and
had
not too
going for
smart.
her.
Gotcha. Yeah,
Not too
yeah.
smart. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
was
Kind
thinking
of
it, I was
unfortunate, but
thinking it,
yeah.
I wasn't
I think we were
yeah,
all
I didn't
thinking
wanna go
it.
there, yeah. I didn't wanna go there, but yeah,
Yeah. It's okay if I go there.
unfortunate.
I don't have a soul, remember, so it's
You
fine.
have no
It's
soul.
fine.
Yeah, yeah. And I'm sure our
Yeah,
listeners are
yeah, no
going there
heart, no
too,
soul.
so yeah, yeah.
Mhm. Yeah. Well, luckily in this case, the brothers did come home. They came home on time. They got home from the mine and they saw Snow White and they pulled the comb from her hair and she was able to wake up. So thankfully,
Oh,
it sounds
wow.
like whatever poison was on the comb was just not very strong. And it was
She or
able to
she's got
subdue her
she's like a
while it
cat
was in contact with her skin.
or she's a cat with 9 lives.
Oh, well, oh yeah, that too. Not a very bright cat. So, okay, you know
No,
what? Kind of
not a
like
bright
one of
cat.
my cats. Not very
Yeah,
bright,
exactly.
very, very cute, very
Yeah,
lovely, but not the brightest.
yeah, that's what it sounds like.
Yeah, yeah. Okay. Yeah, it sounds a lot like my cat. Yeah, yeah. Well, in this case, she was able to survive for whatever reason, whether it was very weak poison that only incapacitated her once it was in contact with her skin, or if she just had 9 lives, whatever, she is
Right.
able to wake up.
Well, and
Now,
maybe her hair
you'd
was
think,
incredibly thick, so it
well, I
didn't
mean,
actually get Too
by
much to
all
her skin.
right, and by all reports, she is very beautiful and probably has beautiful thick hair.
Yeah, undoubtedly.
Yeah, undoubtedly. Yeah. So she wakes up, and what do you know? The queen finds out again.
Oh, come
Really
on.
awful. Really, this woman really, really needs some help. She needs an intervention. She
Well,
does. I mean, she
and
also
you
needs
would
to be stopped. She needs to go to prison, but she
yeah.
also definitely needs an intervention.
Well, and why is this girl why is Miss White still staying there? I move on. Move on. You don't stay in the situation. That's just, you know,
Right.
safety and
Right. If
and
you're, for example, a
self-preservation 101.
witness and
Yes. Witness
mhm, if you're a
protection,
witness and your
something.
location has been compromised, go to a new
You
location.
move. Thank you. Thank you.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. She didn't move. I mean, maybe she was just really comfortable and this was one of the first places that she felt happy and comfortable.
And
I mean, I
loved.
don't know what
Yeah.
her home life was like in the palace with this stepmother. Sounds like the father was fairly absent and this
Yeah.
stepmother obviously hates her. So who knows what her life was like if she was fairly isolated in the palace. And now
Yeah.
she's in a home with 7 brothers who treat her like a
Yeah.
sister and maybe she feels like she's got a family.
Fair enough, but still, I mean,
Yeah.
I don't know. If it was me, I'd be gone.
Right.
But I wouldn't have
Well,
I honestly, I wouldn't have
thank
opened the door in the first place, so
right, you have some stranger danger.
yes, absolutely. I was around in the '80s, come on, of course.
I was kind of around. I mean, I was a little too young, but I was born.
Yeah, I wasn't too young, no. Okay, anyway, continue on.
Well, unfortunately, okay, well, yeah, so the queen finds out again and this time decides she's just going to go balls to the wall and she's going to make it stick. So she creates
Uh-oh.
a poison and she gets this beautiful beautiful red delicious apple and puts this poison in the apple and she travels back to the
Oh.
house to get Snow White. Now this time Snow White has already survived 3 attempts on her life. She has a little
Guess
bit
what?
more stranger danger, not a whole lot still.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
very questionable, but at least a little bit more than before.
I would hope so.
And this time, oh, well, again, maybe not the brightest of the bunch, but pretty and nice. So, you know.
Yeah.
So this time around, the queen comes in, beautiful, beautiful apple, and offers it to Snow White. Snow White, thankfully, exhibits some type of reticence and says she's not going to take anything from this unknown peddler.
Thank goodness.
The queen had prepared for that, unfortunately, because the queen, unlike Snow White, was very intelligent. She has a lot of mental health issues. She's in the midst of a very, very violent psychosis, but at least she's intelligent. Well, I don't want to say at least. I do always favor intelligent women. Although in this
Sure.
case, I think I might have to change that and because her intelligence is a bit too nefarious, I think.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, but she had planned for that. She cut the apple in half and she gave Snow White the poisoned half, and she ate from the non-poisoned half. And she showed Snow White
Oh.
that she could eat it, and Snow White thought,
Yeah.
"Well, here you go. This other person is eating it, so it must be okay." So
Building
she takes a
confidence.
bite of the apple, takes a bite of the apple, and falls down just like she's dead.
Wow.
Yeah,
So she's done this
just
time. There's
just absolutely
she's
done. I mean, you would think she's survived 3 attempts already. This time is just it's over. It's done.
yeah, it's gotta be. Ah, poor kid.
Yeah. She seemed sweet enough, nice
She
enough. Just
did. I
really
mean,
wanted a family.
yeah. Just wanted some
You know,
love and a
her
family.
mhm. Yeah, well, the brothers come home and unlike the last 2 times, they cannot revive her. They can't wake her
I
up.
knew it.
It's just
I
it's
knew it.
done. It's over. So they built her a glass coffin. And that was kinda weird.
Oh,
It's like, "Wait, why are you building a glass coffin?" That's kinda weird. Just like
yeah.
you bury her. It's normal custom to bury. But
Yeah.
from what I can see, it looks like they opted not to bury her because she was such a beautiful girl and she was so nice and kind, and they felt so strongly towards her that they wanted to they didn't wanna just put her in the ground and forget about her.
Okay.
Little
Alright, I can
creepy,
see that.
little
Little
creepy,
creepy, but,
but
yeah.
little
So,
creepy,
these guys,
but
there is a creepy side to these guys.
mhm, yeah,
Mm,
definitely a creepy side.
wow.
Kinda nice, makes me think, like, maybe they were just very sheltered, and
Sure.
maybe they spent too much time on a PS5.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
They weren't
yeah,
living in their mother's basement, though. They were obviously, had their own house,
that's
but
true.
yeah, no,
They
I
true, they
agree.
had their
I
own
agree.
house, yeah, but I could
They were
definitely see
definitely
them
playing
living
the
in their mother's basement with that Cheeto dust on their shirt.
Yes, exactly. I think they
Mhm,
were doing video games of their time, probably.
right. Yeah, or maybe, LARPing. I knew quite a few
LARPing.
people in high school who loved to LARP, and this kinda makes me think that just
Yeah,
really sweet, really kind, a little socially
yeah,
awkward. Very awkward.
yeah.
Yeah.
Socially awkward guys.
Maybe that
Yeah,
maybe that yeah, yeah. That's probably why we got along so well. Very awkward. Yeah.
yeah.
So
Very
they
awkward.
built this glass case for her, and what me or the conversation?
Both.
Oh, yeah, okay. So they built this glass casket for her, and they put her in this glass casket, and she just kinda hung out in there. She didn't decay, which
What?
right off the bat
That's
tells me there's
creepy.
something weird. She's not
Yeah.
decaying, but she's almost like a suspended animation. Very
Nah,
strange.
something's not right. Something's not right. That's not how it
That
works.
already tells me if she's not decaying, she's
She's
not
not
dead.
dead.
Right,
Gotta be.
there we go. She's not dead.
I went right there with you.
Right.
Yep.
Crazy, crazy. Newsflash. This is a I see dead people moment. She's not dead.
So, coma, but they don't realize what a coma even is because they haven't been exposed to the medical industry, obviously. I mean, these guys are minors.
Right. Right. And not children
Wow.
minors, minors who dig in the ground
Yeah,
minors,
yeah,
just to
yeah, yeah,
clarify that.
let's make sure people know that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah.
Yeah.
That's a different kind of
Now
podcast.
one day right, totally different kind of
Yeah.
podcast. One day, there is a prince who's, I guess, out and about doing things that princes do, and comes across this casket. And he speaks to one of the brothers who was there. They were just kind of watching over it, making sure it wasn't vandalized or damaged,
Sure.
and says that he would like to take this casket with this woman in this casket back to his castle. Very odd.
What?
Like,
That is
very,
so
very
weird.
weird. Like, are you gonna have a casket with a what you believe to be a dead woman in as like a paperweight? That's just very,
What is it, like
very
a 400
strange.
year old Tinder? That doesn't make any
I
sense.
just
I mean,
very although
yeah.
not really Tinder, because that would be a whole different type of Tinder with necrophilia, and
Yeah, that's
I
weird.
don't think that's
That's
legal.
creepy. Well,
Very creepy.
don't
Very
tell me
weird.
they don't tell me they let him do it.
Initially, no. They said, "Nope, you couldn't pay us
Okay.
anything. We're not gonna do it." But he convinced them. It sounded like he was maybe not use her as a paperweight, but, like, put her kind of in a display area so that she could other people could see her and, like, be awed
What a
by her.
weirdo.
Very weird. Very weird. Very questionable. I was
Oh, wait a minute.
very I got the ick. I got the ick from
Well
this.
well, yeah, no, I initially did too, but now I have a question for you, and we don't know because obviously this isn't going to be in the records, but um, it is possible that he was gay and was looking for something to be a beard. you know? She's his cover.
Oh,
I met
yeah.
this woman,
Right, right. Oh,
she died,
perfect, perfect beard. You
and
don't have to worry it.
yeah. So
Mhm.
I married
Yeah.
this woman, she died, but I'm bringing her back to our castle so that I can, show you that I had this wife, the qu this,
Mhm.
princess, and yeah. I mean,
Yeah,
it
and you
makes
know what?
sense.
That's a good point. Yeah. And so that
Yeah.
he can finally live with who he wants to live with
His
and
life.
still meet those sort of outdated, really, really homophobic
Requirements.
standards of his time.
Yeah,
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah.
It makes sense.
Well, so fine. It does. Yeah, you know what? It kind of does. Yeah. That's definitely a lot less of the ick.
Yeah, it gives me less ick if I think, "Okay,
Mhm.
there's definitely a reason here that he's gonna do this." A
Right.
valid reason at least, not so
Yeah.
icky, not so creepy.
Not so gross. Not so ick.
Yeah.
So he is allowed to take her home. The brothers do agree, and they're lifting the casket, and it's jostled. And as it's jostled, she is jostled within the casket and is able to spit out a small piece of the apple that had been stuck in her throat, putting her in that
What?
coma. And as soon as it came out of her mouth, she woke up and she looked around and asked where she was.
No
Mhm.
way.
Like days of our lives. I mean, you can't
No
make this
kidding.
up. This is just crazy.
Wha I'm speechless again. This okay, so I kind of assumed that she was probably in a coma because, we know that she's not decaying. They don't know this though, and what is this prince gonna do now?
Well, now that she's awake, he asks her to marry him. Back to
Oh,
the ick
wait a minute.
factor.
Oh,
Mhm.
we are back.
Mhm.
Yes.
Back with the ick full force.
I
Really,
am icked again.
really gross.
Yeah, yeah. I had the
He didn't know
heebie-jeebies.
her.
Yep.
She had been a woman that he thought was dead, and now she's obviously awake. She's not dead. And instead of getting her medical treatment and trying to figure out what happened to her and see if she needs any legal recourse, he's just, "Oh, let's get married."
Or even who she is.
Mm,
How about asking,
really
finding out a little bit
terrible.
about her? Yeah. Whoa.
Really awful. Really
Yeah,
gross. Right.
that's gross. You're right. It's just, oh,
Mhm.
ick.
Even even by standards of that time. I mean, I know that we can't really judge people 800 years ago by our standards today,
True.
but it's really hard not to.
That's a rough one. You
It
think this
is.
woman's dead, you're gonna bring her back to your castle. Okay, I had a theory. No, that's not right. And he asks her to marry him, coming right out of a coma. Like, that's his first
Mm,
thought.
ugh, really bad. And then she says yes.
Oh,
Although I think
no,
we've already established
no.
she's not the brightest. She's not
Oh,
she's very
come
trusting, she's very
on.
gullible, very sheltered, totally privileged, epitome of privilege. She says yes.
She
Mhm.
says
She
yes?
does. She says yes.
You're kidding
Yeah. Ugh.
me. You're kidding me now. No.
I
No, no, no,
wish
no.
I was kidding. I wish this was fiction. Ugh.
Ah, this
I
has gone
know.
really
Ay vey.
weird. I
So weird.
you know, it is just
It gets weirder still.
no. Oh my
It
god. What
does.
happens?
So,
What happens?
that stepmother that we
Yeah,
thought
yeah,
was
yeah, yeah,
finally
'cause
done,
yeah,
who thought she finally killed her stepdaughter after trying to
right?
kill her 3 times before and cannibalizing what she thought was her heart.
Yeah,
Well, she gets an invitation to this wedding. Doesn't know who the bride
okay.
is, but she gets an invitation. She's prepping for the wedding and she goes to her mirror, and the mirror tells her that, "O queen, although you are of beauty rare, the young bride is 1,000 times more fair." So now she's already upset about whoever this
Oh.
bride is. She doesn't know it's Snow White. She just knows that this bride is a beautiful woman, and
Well,
she is
Princess
upset.
And Princess White, by this time, you would think she would have opted for a small wedding.
You would
Keep
think.
it on the
Sh
down low.
I mean, honestly, her only friends are the 7 brothers, so who else is she gonna invite?
Who exactly, exactly.
Right. Wow.
Wow.
Although, I mean, she's marrying a prince. I guess maybe they have to invite other heads of state in other nearby
Sure.
kingdoms, maybe just to kind of keep alliances, you know?
And
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 I
I'm
think,
guessing she hasn't
weddings
told them
were
who
were
she
generally
is.
good times.
Yeah, but
Apparently
I'm
not,
guessing
or maybe she didn't
yeah,
realize. Yeah.
yeah. We've
But
already
they
established she's
invite the
not that bright.
stepmother, and now the stepmother is already upset at whoever this bride is, goes to the wedding and finds out that it is Miss White or Princess White, soon to be Mrs. White, I don't know.
Oh, no,
Finds
you're
out that it's
kidding.
her. Yeah, yeah. But at this point, I think she's so far gone. I think she had been so sick for so many years that instead of trying to kill Snow White again, she she stays at the wedding, and I don't know if Snow White had them ready for her or if she in her own sort of paranoia and anger created them herself, but had red hot iron shoes, and she put them on and she danced in these scalding iron shoes until she died.
You have got to be kidding me.
I mean, that's one way to commit suicide. It's
So
a horrible
she
way.
yeah,
It's disgusting. It's
that
painful.
is that is
I
horrendous.
think just shows how sick she truly was.
Well, yeah, I mean, she had really gone off the deep end there because,
Mhm.
it's I mean, that's just a brutal way. If I mean, if you just wanna end it all, I mean, first of all, get help. This is, not this is not something, anyone should be doing, much less in that brutal of a fashion. That's awful. I mean, I feel a little bit for this woman, in a weird sort of way, and she's, a murderess and a wannabe murderess and a cannibal, but, I feel for her mental health situation and that she's just got to the point where she's done. She's just done.
Yeah, it's
Wow.
over.
Wow.
This was a really rough one. This was tough.
That was rough. Now, question
Mhm.
for you. I'm
Yeah.
assuming, the brothers went to the wedding and stuff too, but, in the writings that you have, do we even know who these brothers are?
Mhm.
I mean, what are their names? Do we know anything?
We don't know. No. There have been I've seen some names. I don't know if it's their names, if it's attributed to them, if it's different characteristics of them. I so I don't really know if they're the real names. Um, Hang on, Amy, just a second. And we're back. I don't know if these names are their names, if they were just names that were attributed to them based on characteristics or
Mhm.
mistranslations, but I have seen names such as Doc, Sleepy, Dopey, Grumpy, Happy, Bashful, and Sneezy. Kind of weird
Oh,
names.
she
So I
she
think
gave them nicknames. Yeah,
they
that's not
probably
those
are. Yeah,
can't
they're
be their real
probably
names.
nicknames.
Yeah,
No, they are. They're
yeah.
probably just
Those are
nicknames.
her
Yeah.
pet names for them. Oh, that's cute actually
Right.
that she
Yeah.
has these pet names for her adopted brothers. I mean, that aw, that
Yeah.
is really sweet. That is really sweet that she and did she
Yeah.
maintain a relationship with them?
I wouldn't see why not. They were the closest thing she had to family.
Yeah. I hope they reaped some of the rewards for being, the princess's sister, and eventually the queen,
Mhm.
you know?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah,
Wow.
maybe they could take a day off from mining and, make sure they always
Yeah.
had a hot meal at the end of the
Plenty of
night. Didn't
food and
have to
yeah.
reheat their meal prep.
Wow. You know,
Yeah.
it's really, I mean, there was a lot of crime in this story, and there was a lot of ick factor. The mental health issue was incredibly troublesome, um, for so many reasons. But, in a way, at least there was a good outcome for the victim. Uh,
Yeah.
that makes me
And it
feel a little
didn't
better.
seem like there was any type of lasting mental health issues or lasting PTSD. And I don't know if she was just someone who was so sheltered that it maybe she didn't understand everything that happened
Yeah.
to her. Maybe she couldn't process it, but whatever the reason, it seemed like she was happy.
Well, and apparently there was no ick factor for her with this guy just, thinking she's dead. Yeah, I mean, maybe she didn't even know.
Yeah.
Maybe they never told her that he wanted to put her up on a,
Yeah.
pedestal or whatever, a dead body, and then when she comes out of her coma, he asks her to marry him. Maybe she didn't know that. So, we've got the ick factor, 2023. Uh,
Mhm.
several hundred years ago, apparently not quite the same.
Not so ick. Mm,
Yeah. Wow.
yeah.
What an interesting story. I had no idea this was gonna take that kind of a turn. That was dark, and that was really
It
dark.
got dark, real quick. Yeah, just
Wow.
what a lovely beginning. They have a baby, she's wonderful,
Yeah.
and murder and cannibalism.
Wow. And did the
Mhm.
investigators, the Grimm brothers, did they leave any notes on this case, or was it just the translations and that was that?
There were quite a few notes, and that's how I was able to get as much information as I was, especially regarding the mirror.
Ah,
They left a
gotcha. So,
lot of
alright.
notes.
So
Mhm,
there were some, like, notes on the sides of the writing and what have
mhm.
you. Wow, wow. Well,
Right.
thank you. This was
It was such an old
fantastic.
case, and there was so little information, and it had been translated so many times that it was just so bare bones. A lot of what we have right now is really based on their notes of what they were able to translate.
Yeah, well, and I'm sure some of it, it has, been lost in translation over several hundred years.
Mhm,
And
mhm.
we're coming at this, at a, several hundred years later with a different perspective that, maybe we're missing some things as well. You know how things get lost in translation. It happens all the time. So,
Yeah,
who knows?
yeah.
Who knows what we're
Lost to the
missing?
annals of history.
Yeah. Who knows? Those anals.
Mhm. Just very
Oh,
dark,
are we gonna do
long and
anal are
dark.
we gonna do anal jokes now?
Oh my god. We need to end
Oh,
this
you're sick
before it
and
gets really
twisted.
bad.
You were sick and
I
twisted.
was waiting to see if you're
Alright.
gonna pick up on that.
Yeah, I certainly did.
I am.
I'm
All right,
not gonna
let's
be
cut that
eating
part
any
out,
poison
though. I mean, we
apples.
can keep the annals of history, but maybe the joke we can cut that out.
Ah, well, thank you so much for sharing this one with me. I mean, you never cease to amaze me with these finds. Like I said, to our listeners before that, I've taught primarily business law. You are in a different kind of law as an attorney, and these cases
Mhm.
that you find are just they make me want to study criminal law, or maybe even investigations. I don't know, something.
I just
But
get
thank you.
stuck in a historical wormhole and I start digging and I just go down that rabbit hole.
Yeah, that see, I would do the same thing.
Mhm.
That's just fascinating that you're able to find these. Incredible library,
Great library
absolutely incredible.
system.
Yeah.
Support your local library.
Absolutely, folks. Support your local library.
Mhm.
At the same time, you're subscribing to us. So, thanks so much, Alyssa. I so appreciate your time with me and you taking out the time to bring me these cases and just sometimes give me the ick factor. This is wild. This is
Mm.
just so wild. I'm glad we get
Well, I
together.
mean, you I know how much you love the ick factor, how you have that love-hate relationship with it,
I do.
and you're so kind of gross anyway that you don't really get that ick factor from most in your daily life. So
No,
I am so
no.
glad that I am able to bring that to you.
Yeah, and I was sober for this one too, which is great.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, crazy,
yeah.
wild. All
I'm a
right,
little
well,
bit surprised though that I was able to spend this much time with you while you were sober.
I know this is weird. Yeah. Well,
Mhm.
I
Mhm.
just felt tonight probably, it was a good thing to just, come at this sober and see what I can find. And I got to tell you, it was a great case. This was a fascinating case. Just amazing, and I love getting together every week because, we get time to chat. I mean, yeah, we're talking about law, which we're interested in, and true crime, which we're both interested in, but also, as cousins, we get together, and our ancestors are happy, and they're it's all good. So it was fun.
Yeah.
Good seeing you again, and, hey,
Yeah, good
let's,
talking to
let's get
you.
together next week. Yeah, let's get together next week
Let's do it.
and maybe go over to the case or something.
Yeah, let's do it. That sounds like a good time. Let's do it.
Sounds good, sounds good. All right, well,
All
thanks for
right.
listening,
All right.
everybody, and y
Wonderful.
you have a great weekend, and, yeah, I'll talk to you next week.
I look forward to it.
All right. Ciao.
Good night.